So as Prasanna mentioned, what I wanted to do is similar to what Sharad took you through HCM. I will take you through a few templates. We won't have time to go through every one of them out here, but just to give you an idea, for supply chain management, again, we are looking at providing pre-built templates across the board for most of our solutions. What we've done is we've taken some of these, the answer agents, and we've created some starting templates. Some of these which I have enhanced, and I'll show you with business object tools and some of the other tools that Sharad was mentioning. So again, just to kind of give you a quick summary, I will show you the return order agent and the maintenance advisor, as well as a couple of PLM agent templates that we will be seeding out of the box. There will be additional templates that you will be able to see when you get 25C. You will see those on the dashboard. So with that, let me kind of jump into the demo. Prasanna, if I may share. Okay. So again, I'm going to be using a couple of environments here to take you through this. Hopefully, this my screen is visible out here. If not, let me know. I can zoom in a little bit. But this is just a sampling of some of the agent templates that we will be looking at out here. The one I'm going to be showing you is the sales return order assistant. JT sort of touched a little bit upon it, but we'll go into a little bit more detail. And then I will go through a couple of other examples as well. So as was shown out here, when you log in as a SCM admin that has the right privileges to access AI Agent Studio, you'll be greeted with this nice landing page where you will see all these pre-built templates. You will be able to then filter based on the family. As you can see, again, as Kaushal and JT mentioned earlier, this is a one-stop IDE sort of or platform to define your AI agents, and you can very easily filter based on family out here. So I'm going to kind of go into supply chain management. And as you can see, you can then get the list of templates. You can further then use the product. For example, if I was looking for order management, I can go ahead and use the product to further narrow down the agent templates that I'm kind of looking at. So with that, let me kind of take you through some of these examples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on agent teams, which is where you will see a listing of all your agent teams that you've configured. And again, one of the things that I did want to mention is that you will be able to filter based on the family and product throughout the entire set of capabilities that we have out here. So for example, when you build agents which are reusable, you can search based on family and product. When you're building tools, you'll be able to search based on family and product. So a very nice way and consistent experience in terms of how you can find these modular blocks as you assemble your agent teams and AI agents in the studio. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on family, and I'm interested in supply chain management. So I'm going to filter on that, and then furthermore, I'm going to filter based on order management. That's the first template that I'll be taking you through. So once I do that, again, it filters the list of agents that are available to me, and then I can use some keywords to further filter down if I was interested in a specific set of agents. So in this case, I'm looking at the sales order return assistant that we're going to use, and I'm going to click on this and go into that particular agent. So again, just to reiterate, you can access the agent's configuration out here through by clicking on this settings icon, and it will give you the high level configuration metadata for that particular agent. In this case, we're looking at a single agent using multiple tools. And it has some metadata, as I was mentioning, like the family, the product, the number of maximum interactions. This is something that JT went over, so I'm not going to go into a lot more detail. You can specify, or look at the large language model, have some starter questions, security, and some additional capabilities that we will be providing out here. So that's sort of the basic configuration. You also have the ability to go to the library of tools, agents that you've already created out here, and then assemble them and drag and drop them out here into your agent. So let's take a look at this particular agent. The use case out here is that typically a customer service representative has to go through a return order process. So if a customer calls in and they want to return something, there can be multiple options available to them. They might be also bound based on the return policy, as we'll see shortly out here. So the AI agent that I'm going to take you through, the pre-built template, allows a customer sales representative to be really productive and help or have the AI assistant help them in automatically creating the return order, checking the eligibility of the order, as well as inquire about return policies in a document. So if you take a look at the return order advisor out here, I can see, again, as I mentioned, some of the metadata, but also the description of that agent, in this case, the pre-built template, and then the prompt that really is the instructions for how the agent will behave and what it has to expect in terms of the context. So if you look at this again, there is a instruction. It's also giving us some sort of or the agent some questions that they might expect. The user might enter, and then it is also going through a step-by-step tool usage, very similar to what Sharad was demonstrating for HCM, is what the agent needs to do in terms of the tool usage, what specific tools it needs to call. In this case, it needs to get the order number based on the query. So, for example, if the user were to ask, uh, can you check the eligibility? It may ask what the order number is for it to proceed. And once it does that, it will go ahead and get the order details based on the business object tool, and then further get the order line details. So as you can see, there is a specific sequence in which this particular prompt has been designed for this agent to get the right business context it needs. It then also has specific instructions to check on the eligibility logic, whether, if the fulfilled quantity is greater than zero, then it would be eligible. If the returnable quantity is greater than zero, it would be eligible, etc. Right? So it will check, once it gets this data, it will check on that particular eligibility of the order. And then it also is able to get the user information in terms of the time and the user ID. In the debug mode, I won't be able to show it to you, but there's also a plan if this was to be invoked from the order details page in Redwood. It would basically get that context automatically, so that you would not have to enter this information. But for this debug purposes, we'll use the query to enter it manually. And then it also has the ability to kind of look at the document tool. This is important because the return policies, the terms and conditions for return eligibility, etc., are housed in this in a policy document or a terms and conditions or a contract document. So the agent would check in terms of the return policy and whether that customer is eligible, etc., to further qualify that particular return. And then it also would check in terms of the number of days that have been elapsed since the fulfillment of this particular order. So if it's beyond the certain return policy or return window, it will then mark it as being ineligible for return. So these are all, again, basically rules that the agent will follow in terms of giving you an appropriate response and helping you through this particular return process. So again, it also has the deep link tool and also the ability to go ahead and respond, as we'll see, based on what it finds in terms of eligibility, and then also the confirmation in terms of what the return type matches and what the appropriate return reasons are. So it would give you the appropriate response in terms of what return types you would like it to process, and then go ahead and create that order and allow you to automate the entire process, which is done manually from a CSR perspective. So again, there's a lot out here in terms of the prompt and the brains behind how this particular agent is going to go through this. Again, we also have certain things that we are asking it to not do, as Sharad was mentioning, in case it needs some additional guidance as well. So that's again the overall overview of the Return Advisor prompt. So if I were to kind of go in here and click on the tools, as you can see, we have a number of business object tools. We have the ability to get the sales order details. If I were to kind of look at this, again, it has multiple functions, each having different parameters which the agent will use in terms of accessing that information in the web service and then retrieving the appropriate information. So that particular business object tool gets the sales order details. This one is specifically to get the lines by header ID. So once the sales order header ID is available, it will then go in and get all of this additional detail out here as well. Again, the sales order deep link, as we mentioned, would just provide the deep link once the order eligibility has returned confirmation. So that is something that will also be done. And then in terms of the return order policy, this is a document tool. Again, you can have a virtual document tool out here, which can have multiple physical documents, as JT covered out here. And then as an admin, I can go ahead and download this and make sure that it's appropriate, but it has to go through a publication process where it will the contents of this document or multiple documents will be vectorized, etc. So that's something that would be done when you're defining the tool out here, as JT showed. But this is where we have used the document tool to house the return order policy. And then similar to that, once you've submitted the order and the get return order line details would be presented back to the user. This is again an automated process to create the return order rather than the CSR going in manually creating it. Okay. So again, that's sort of a overview of this particular agent. So let me kind of go through and show you how this works. And I might just put a little bit of a fine print that I was having some issues with this. So we'll try to give it a spin, but you'll sort of get an idea of how this thing works. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go ahead and start this process. So the user can come in here and enter, could you check the eligibility for the order number? This is a specific order number that the customer has called in. And as you can see in the debug mode, this is sort of giving us an echo of what the agent is doing and thinking. Extremely important for admins before you go ahead and deploy this to production is the ability to see how the tool is behaving, whether it's using the right tools to call in the right sequence, etc., and whether it's getting the appropriate payload and the information that you expect it to. And this was sort of covered earlier, so I'm not going to go into detail. But as you can see, it's first getting the sales order. We've given it the number, so it's getting the sales order details. It's also getting the user session, the user ID, and the current time, etc. And then it's also calling in the order lines. And if you notice, it's sort of waited for finishing this particular tool call, and then subsequent tool calls were shown out here. So as you can see, it's now gone ahead and checked this particular return eligibility summary out here, and it's brought me back that, hey, none of these items. So but this is an example of where we are presenting this in a little bit more efficient manner in a table rather than just textual description. That's something that was provided in the prompt for it to kind of structure it this way. So this is a nice way for the agent to present this in a little bit more legible fashion rather than just bullet points or something like that. So as you can see, it's also giving me certain return options. In this case, if I wanted to check is there a restocking fee, and this is just showing you if I wanted to kind of query anything that was in the return policy, I can ask it certain questions where it will now go and look at the policy document and then go ahead and provide a response, to me. So again, we'll see that the input as well and the output in terms of the specific document tool that it will call out here in a moment, so that we can validate whether it's sort of picking the right information from the right source. And so one of the things that you will be able to do, so as you can see, it's actually it did not call it. So I need to go back and check if this particular why the reason it did not call the document tool in case of this particular question. So I can go ahead and modify the prompt if necessary. We are having some trouble with this right now in this environment. So unfortunately, it's sort of not bringing it, but we'll give it one more shot, and then I can move on to showing you a couple of more examples. The return policy for items and see if it picks this up. Okay, so now it did. So maybe that question was not relevant in that particular case, or something it didn't like about it. But as you can see now, when I'm asking it this particular pointed question, it is going and calling that particular tool. And in this case, it's going to kind of look at the return order policy document and give us a response out here. So I can see out here it's already kind of bringing that particular um, so again, it's giving me some some responses that it's not recognizing that, but I need to go back and debug this out here. But as you can see, once it provides that response, you can go in and basically look at the sources. It will give you the appropriate sources, and then once you select that, it will basically give you that information in terms of that particular policy document. So as you can see, you can also ask it queries and about the written policy, and it will give you those responses in context of that particular session and enterprise data. So again, that's a quick overview of the return assistant. Let me show you a couple of more time permitting out here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through an example of the product regulatory agent in PLM. So let's go take a look at that and see what that configuration looks like. So I'm going to pick on a few I had done out here. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this particular one. So this use case is where I want to be able to check on the compliance for a particular item in the system. So again, we started this off with a document RAG agent, but we've expanded that to include a couple of business object tools. I'll take you through what that looks like. So when we look at the regulatory compliance advisor, the core use case out here is for this agent to use the item attributes as well as some of the item information to check whether that item is compliant from a regulatory perspective. This is a cumbersome process today because you have to rely on a regulatory team that has to interpret some of the complex RoHS, WEEE kind of compliance standards. And then you would have to manually kind of compare and contrast that information with whatever item attributes you have. So this agent will help us automate some of that process and give us that particular information. So again, something similar to what we saw is the ability to extract the item number and the org code from the query, or in this case, we will be also passing in this information as context once the agent is invoked when you have it on the item details page in Redwood, etc. And then we are also going to use the document tool for checking those standards and checking against those standards. So again, a simpler kind of use case, but what is unique out here is the use of the business object tool. So in this case, we have the item operational attributes where we are fetching the item operational values. But most of the compliance attributes are typically customers will want them as extensible attributes. So this is a usage of how we can not only access preceded attributes like the operational attributes that we have, but you can also access extended attributes that customers might have data in, right? So the reason why we, again, just from a design perspective, why we use this is because we are getting the information from the operational attribute query. And since this is a child resource, we are then using that to fetch the information for the extended attributes from that child table. So this is how we have designed it to access that information. And then in this case, we have a regulatory document that we have taken through and published, which we will use for this purpose. So let's kind of take a look at this quickly, and then I can go in and ask some queries. So just in the interest of time, I have copied some information out here. So I'm going to ask this, can you check if item, and in this case, I'm entering this information manually, but you will be able to pass this information as context, either through the guided journey or through other means. So compliant based on the regulatory guidelines. So once we do that, what it's going to do in terms of, as we'll see in the terms of the tool call, is it's going to call the item operational attribute, and here it is getting it is passing in the item information. It is checking some of the operational attributes like the item class, etc. And then it is also calling the extended attributes, because some of these attributes might be in the extensible attribute configuration. So, and then it is also calling the product regulations and standards to check those attributes and see if those are compliant to that particular regulatory guideline. So once it does that, it will come back and show us that information out here. So one of the things that you can also do is you can ask questions regarding specific attributes, which I'm going to show you quickly out here. So as you can see, it's basically giving us that it's classified as a medical device, which is the right term. It also has a target market, which is EU market. And then it also has the hexavalent chromium content, which is 0.02. So if I wanted to specifically add, this is an actual attribute on the item. If I wanted to ask it that for a given attribute, just to show you, it will also be able to pull that up. So if I were to value for item within limits of the standards. If I ask it, as you will see, it will go back and provide that pointed response. So now what it's looking is it's going to look at a specific set of attributes, and it's going to give me a very pointed response. So this is just to illustrate that how the agent is using the enterprise business data, and then it is using that context, checking the appropriate document, if again, as we have instructed in the prompt, and giving you a very, very specific response. Now, I think we will be looking at enhancing this in the future, where you'll be able to update these attributes automatically as well, to bring this particular item in compliance. So as you can see, it's now giving me a very specific response for that particular attribute, and that it exceeds the regulatory limit of 0.1, and that is part of that particular execution. Okay, so this is another example of a template that we will be providing. And then let me show you one more, and then I think I will pass it on back to Prasanna. So I'm going to show you a maintenance template out here. So once I go out here, I'm going to look at the maintenance advisor work order team. So I'm going to take a look at that. And this particular agent is specifically designed for technicians and maintenance users, where it will help them with the appropriate suggestions, repair suggestions, by looking at not only the description of the work order, but it will also pull in the service history. And this is something that was created just for this AI agent use case, where we've developed a specific service to retrieve all the service history based on a given work order and a work order description. So as you can see, in terms of the prompt, just to kind of quickly give you an idea, is again, it's giving it a persona, what it needs to do. It's then going ahead and providing certain guidelines and how it needs to be using the tool. It's also in a similar fashion extracting the work order number. It is also basically then calling the work order history tool in order to get the appropriate work orders that might be similar to the initial work order. And then it is providing a summary and a recommendation based on that and the suggestions in a given document. So again, I'm not going to go into the detail of this prompt, but as you can see, you're starting to see a structure of how a good sort of prompt needs to be designed in terms of giving it a persona, the tool calling guidelines, as well as a certain output format if you wish to do so. So let me kind of take you through quickly showing you some of these tools. So again, this is the order history tool. And again, we've used the business object tool to retrieve the service history based on the work order. This particular tool is again getting the information for the work order itself. And then finally, this is the document tool, where you can upload a manual. In this case, we have a warning lights manual or instructions that have been provided in that particular document. So with that, let me kind of take you through what that looks like. And then in this case, I'm going to just use this query out here to allow it to give me repair suggestions. So now what it's doing is this particular work order has a particular problem description. It also has certain operations, etc., that I can query. And then it's, as you can see, it's the first is it's calling that particular work order tool to get the information. And then based on that, it's again calling the work order history tool to fetch similar work orders that might be matching that particular description. So as you can see, this is something that would be practically impossible for the technician to do, because if they had to go in and query the service, go through each service or a work order, find out if that particular work order has a description that's related to it, that would be a very, very time consuming process. So this is where the AI agent will help the technician really speed up the process, where they can actually get the repair suggestions, focus on the repair, and then get that done very, very quickly. And then in this case, again, we are going to look at the work order documentation tool. In this case, we are having the warning light specifically. So it's going to go back and use the work order problem description in order to kind of get that information back. We'll just give it a second out here before it comes back for the response, which will be a summary of the different service orders that might be related to my work order that I'm working on actively. Okay. So while it's kind of doing that, just to kind of reiterate again, you can go ahead and these are examples of a single agent, but you can very quickly go ahead and assemble your multi-agent team as well. The design of the agent can be in a way that you can break up certain specialized tasks if you want within that particular agent team, and then using these tools as resources, which the agent really will need in order to bring that information. So, and as we can see, while I was describing that, it's kind of come back. It's also telling me that, hey, I found the reason for why the check engine light might be on. So it's giving me some suggestions from that particular document. And out here, it's now also giving me multiple work orders where I can very clearly see that, hey, these are similar to what that original query was for. So again, as I mentioned, this is something that would have taken a long time for the technician to go and hunt for these problems or service work orders. And then it's, as you can see, it's also grouping them, which are similar in nature, right? So again, this is just kind of showing you where it's using the enterprise business object context and then going and bringing you the right information in that particular context. So, uh, hopefully that kind of gives you an overview of some of the templates. Again, we have about 18 or so other templates that we will be releasing. A lot of them will be document RAG to begin with, but some of them, as you can see, are also already starting to tap into the business object tool, which again you can use and expand on when you use these pre-built templates as well. So with that, let me pause here and hand it back to Prasanna.
All right. I think I'm next.
Mark, you are next. Thank
Yes.
you for helping us with all the supply chain plans and what you intend to deliver out of the box. So this is huge. Next on the list, we have Mark. Mark, I'm going to stop sharing. You can go next.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And so let me just share the appropriate screen. Just 1 second. All right. Thanks for having me. My name is Mark Renan. I'm with the CX Outbound Product Management Group. My colleague Michelle Brucio is also on, and so we'll be able to facilitate some answers to questions you might have. But also, Michelle will be and I will be great resources to follow up in the future regarding CX's AI strategy. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of multi-agent flows today. One is for sales and one is for service. But just for context as to what's shipping in 25C, they're going to be slightly different than these. The sales one will be closer to what we'd call an account advisor, allowing the salesperson to query about the status of an account and have that kind of chat style interface that's very familiar. The service will actually be very, very close to what you'll see today. And then our marketing agents will be shipping towards the end of the calendar year, beginning of next calendar year. So let me jump in here and show you this flow. But while I'm doing that, I just want to give you context as to the business problem that kind of links these two. And it's one that many of our customers face, especially if they've been in kind of traditional industrial manufacturing type industries where they had a fixed good for a fixed sale. So it was very capital expenditure and intensive, and their sellers and their buyers knew that model. But now with the arrival of subscription-based options, they really want to embrace this because it lowers the overall initial investment barriers and it gives them a stronger, steadier revenue stream. So in this case, the administrator is going to take a look at the templates they have available, and the sales quote generator is the agent team template that we're going to use in this case. So effectively what this quote generator team is going to do is it's going to orchestrate across 4 different worker agents. The first one is the quote data collection. The second is the quote creation. So multiple options. And that's a key part of this because if you're instituting big commercial change into your sales base and to your customers, you want to make sure they feel like they have options. They haven't been pigeonholed. We also have a presentation agent, which again is very important because you're going to be able to reuse this in many ways. In some cases, it's direct in the application to the end seller. In other cases, it could be in the context of self-service or even an email. And then finally, the pricing agent. So retrieving and calculating and updating prices. So a really comprehensive agent team. This concept will be pretty close to reality by the end of the calendar year. And so certain pieces of it may not be available right away, but it is really illustrative of our strategy. So in the context of this broader agent team, the administrator here would leverage the ability to edit the agents to tweak so we can actually guide seller and buyer behavior to make sure that they're going to use these new subscription offerings and uptake them instead of just ignoring them and sticking with their default, because we really want to kind of put our finger on the scale and nudge their behavior. But before we get into that, I just want to showcase kind of some of the power of what Sachin was just showing. So in the context of retrieving the business objects, sales will want to make sure that because we've created this brand new SKU in the back office, well, we want to actually ensure that we're pulling the right product master fields from the PIM, right? So this is not just a CX catalog. This is truly the enterprise catalog where we created that new SKU. So we can ensure that we're pulling the right fields through. And then also we can use the topics capabilities to really make sure that we're presenting this quote back to our sellers and our customers in a way that is easy for them to understand, but also in a way that potentially gives us the ability to put our finger on the scale of the pros or the cons to make sure that it highlights this new subscription model in the most favorable light. So with that in mind, just show you a quick couple of examples here of how we would actually make those tweaks. So in the prompt for the quote creation agent, you'll see that there's initially nothing that highlights the subscription model versus the legacy model in any kind of favorable light one way or the other. So in this case, we actually want to edit our prompt. So we can say we want to include and prioritize a subscription service where possible. And so this will allow us to edit the prompt and create something that's going to achieve our business goal. So you can see now in the bullets we scanned down here on the third bullet, if a relevant subscription exists, included as one of the recommended options. So this is now aligned with our business goal, and we can do that. But then let's also use the other tool at our disposal, which is the presentation agent. So in the presentation agent, as we saw before, there's pros and cons, but currently it's very neutral in terms of its tone. So in this one, we could say, for example, explain the pros and cons to encourage a new subscription offering if there is one. So that will hopefully help nudge the behavior, and we can generate, and as you can see here, yep, okay, so now we have the recommendations, and if a subscription exists, we present the pros and cons to favor that. So we have our agent team here, and you can see the end-to-end flow, but we give our administrator the option here to obviously add new worker agents or delete. So in this case, you can think that the pricing conversation might be rather complex. So if I'm explaining to a traditional CapEx style customer used to a one-time sale, the nuances of a subscription model, maybe I don't want to introduce that right there in the context of this agentic automation flow. So instead, for this time, I'm going to leave that off. I'm going to remove this agent, and I've still leveraged the out-of-the-box goodness of the agent template, but I've tailored it to my needs. So now we're ready to test. So just like you saw with Sachin and Sharad and others, we use our testing tools. We've got our pre-canned questions that were part of the template. We're going to choose this first one. What are the best options for the quote to make sure that it's working right? It appears to be using the right tools. And so now it's actually asking us to provide a quote number to help simulate this. So I'm going to put one in here, and then we'll walk through the output A83754. And you can see here that it went through and all of the testing. So let's scan back up and make sure it did it right. So the supervisor agent calls the individual worker agents as appropriate. It pulls back the quote information, the account information, the product line information. It leveraged these three tools. We can even make sure that it was pulling from the right metadata when it's looking into the different business objects. And we can then look at the quote presentation agent to see how it would create these. It created them in a 1, 2, 3. It's favoring the new power as a service model that we're pushing. And it even has the ability to preview the presentation, because it's not just a chat style interface that's supported. It really can be native to the application. So this is reviewing what it would look like inside of Oracle CPQ, right? So this would be a seller centric preview, and so we can see how it's consuming that information there in the screen, and then so we're pretty happy with this. We give it a thumbs up, and we stop the testing tools. So overall, we're pretty happy with where this is at. We would just use the standard tools here, where if we needed to change any of the other settings around LLM or the default questions, but basically at this point, we're just going to turn it to published. And now as I'm setting up this flow, I can then move over to the service side of this. And this is where you really will see the benefit of having all these connected systems in one agent studio. So because you never want to sell a product you couldn't service. Let me just product service. Okay, here we go. All right, so we've got our service templates as well, and we have something called SR Resolution Automation Team. So we're going to use this template to help facilitate any of the inbound questions that might be coming in about this new subscription service or power as a service, as opposed to that one-time purchase of a generator. So again, it's an agent team as opposed to an individual agent. This is a representative of what will be coming in 25C. In fact, just for those of you who have been paying attention to Fusion Service, the resolution agent did ship in its initial incarnation in 24D, and the SR triage agent did ship in its initial incarnation in 25B. So these are building on, and they're iterating, and they're growing with in lockstep with the Agent Studio. But I'll talk you through kind of the business logic of what these are going to do in the context of this flow. So now that we've rolled out these new SKUs, this new subscription model, we want to be able to facilitate really smooth customer service, both operationally from an overhead standpoint, but also for the end customer. So they might be reaching out to us with a service request, but maybe they don't have all the information. They don't understand what the service plan is, or they don't understand all these things because they never had to know that before. So the triage assistant, it's really charged with making sure that all the holes in the service request are filled where appropriate, so that it can tolerate going through a routing assistant or some other next step to help make sure that it's being handled according to the customer's needs, according to the service levels, agreements, and what have you. So, and it even allows for, if there's insufficient information, it really couldn't figure out what your account was or what the product was, it can go back and forth with you and exchange information with the end customer to make sure all those different fields of the SR are filled out sufficiently. So, and then once the triage is done, once we're confident that we have our full handle on all the different details for the SR, then the resolution assistant can look into existing SRs that are already closed to see how they were resolved, and also into the knowledge management system to help pull back the best answer. Excuse me. So I think this was already mentioned quite a few times, definitely from when JT was talking through some of the tools, but I want to call it out here as well. So when we're engaging with an end customer, many of your customers might be a bit hesitant before letting an agent start sending emails and notifications automatically. So just I think it's worth noting that in the notifier here tool, we can actually flip that over to enable human approval. So we're nervous about this, or just maybe from a compliance standpoint, we're not allowed to do that. We can ensure that we are adhering to that human in the loop policy on the triage assistant. And then we can also do that in the SR resolution assistant. So the tools here, before we send any sort of final notification, we can also ensure that a human is in the loop before any communication is sent. But let's just pretend here for a second that the knowledge management piece of this new line of products has not been uploaded into Fusion Knowledge. So we actually need to rely on static PDFs. So if we want to do that, then we could potentially want to add in new tools. So we've actually already set this up. So let's look for service info retriever, and we can add that to our tool here. Apologies. And add that to our tool. Okay, so the service info retriever, you can now see it's got all the relevant details we need to make sure that this is going to be have all the information it needs for these new line of products, right? So, and that will be super helpful for us to facilitate the SR resolution assistant. And then also one other tweak, because this new resolution advisor does embrace kind of a different flavor of automation than maybe we normally have for the rest of our products, we want to constrain its focus through the use of topics. And we can do that by adding a pre-made topic we have ready for us. So we can say that the new power gen line has a very specific set of focus, so that we make sure that this new agent is constrained to the product line. So it really does allow us a lot of flexibility from a supervisor standpoint to adhere to our own internal guidelines. So we've got now a new document source, and we've also got a new topic to constrain the focus, and we've added our humans in the loop. So we're pretty happy with this, and we're going to use the testing tools. So we've got our stock out of the box questions that are associated with this template. And so we're going to use those. We can test it. Looks like it's working right. It's asking us to provide the SR number. So we're going to add one here and run the simulation SS5 or 775 454, and away we go. All right, so it's executed on the test. So it's pulling back, it's engaging with the worker agents appropriately. You can see here there was holes in the SR data. It didn't have a product or severity level, but based on the actual key information around the power drop or the error code on the panel, we can actually fill those pieces of metadata in. And so it used all of these tools. The resolution advisor here is engaging. It's looked for a similar SR, and then it's even looked at helpful knowledge articles, so we can even, see what those are, for example. So it'll pull the relevant piece. So this looks pretty good for us. We're going to give it a thumbs up, and we're going to stop the testing. And we can then, just like we did with the sales flow, we can change from draft to published. So that's really the full scope of what I wanted to show you today. Again, the sales piece will be more is closer to reality by the end of the year. The service flow really is around these two agents in the context of a SR resolution flow that will be real and shipping in 25C. And I hope you can just see the power of these connected flows, both from across CX and a front to back office. So that's all I've got, and we're happy to take any of your questions in the Q&A field.
All right. Thank you, Mark. That was very informative. Next on the list we have is, next we have Justin. He's going to give us a demo on use cases for ERP. Justin, to you, please.
Yep, thanks, Prasanna. Okay, so you've already seen a lot of great information about how Studio works, how to augment and modify different flows, et cetera. I'm going to walk you through, since I'm the last one, just the elements in ERP that are applicable to everything you've already seen, essentially. So if you're familiar with ERP already and EPM, we've deployed a number of agent solutions already, from project and program change management to narrative, data exploration, and document IO. We have a few that are coming up in 25, well, extensions in 25C, a few new ones in 25D, and then in 26A. And these will be released leveraging AI Agent Studio. So when you go in, what you'll end up seeing is a number of these agents. If you've been to Cloud World, you've seen this list before. These templates may be the entire agent, or they may be portions of the agent that are visible through AI Studio. So Document IO, for instance, is a document ingestion and generation tool. Some aspects may be visible through AI Studio, but a large portion of it is designed and managed by Oracle. Some of the new ones that we're releasing in the 25 C&D timeframe are around payment optimization. So I'm going to walk through that example for you today, as well as kind of how we expect partners to work with these new agents around accounts payable, and how you'd augment them, what types of changes you would like to do or anticipate making. So the user interaction itself is going to look largely like this. We'll end up with an agent that you can interrogate and make payment inquiries towards. So this is going to be embedded inside of Redwood Fusion interface. But the way that you're going to interact with that payment agent is with these three agents that I've sort of highlighted at the top here. So we have payment execution, payment optimization, and payment program offer lifecycle management, which I think are three interesting indicative ways that ERP is leveraging Studio to deliver these templates to customers and partners. So payment optimization is an interrogation mechanism, like you saw on the screen just a second ago, that lets you query the business objects that underpin accounts payable and some of the procurement objects to make assessments of how payment programs are being run, and how payment runs are being scheduled, essentially. There's payment program offer lifecycle management, which is an interactive tool with suppliers. So if you want to make payment program changes to an invoice, you have to contact the supplier. There's a whole life cycle related to that. Do they want to basically make changes to your offer? Do they want to negotiate with you? Do they want to accept it as is? So the offer lifecycle management does all those functions. And then payment execution assistant automates a number of steps that you would naturally do yourself. So if somebody did make a payment change to an invoice, you'd normally have to go into one screen, pull that payment out of a payment run, go back, change the payment program, change the statement date, then go to another screen and insert that into another payment run. Payment execution eliminates all those. Once the offer is accepted, it automatically handles those other tasks. So let's go in and take a look at what types of things you'd commonly do in these situations. So one of the things is, you can see, just like in the others, this is a multi-worker this is a single supervisor multi-worker agent scenario. So payment optimization leverages information about payments. It leverages information about the payment programs or the payment methods that can be used. And it has an ROI calculator that it leverages under the covers. Now, these are sort of the bare bones facilities that let the optimization assistant do things like answer questions around what payments I currently have scheduled, what payments have a suboptimal payment method on them. If I want to move payments around to different quarters or to different periods, which ones do I have the options of doing that with? And you'll see that the prompt here is aligned to that, right? It's basically saying, understand what the user's asking for from an intent perspective. And then the pieces below, to simplify the wording, basically what they're saying is translate these into SQL queries that can be used to pull back payment data, pull back payment program data, leverage these. It's not really SQL, but you can think of it that way. Pull this information back so that I can use it to calculate an ROI and calculate a scenario for you. Now, if you think of what you might do to modify this, there's a number of things. We have a number of agents that are already being delivered out of the box as part of ERP that are related to insights. If you're familiar with EPM insights, those are being extended across the platform, related to transaction matching, related to insight exploration, like I mentioned, data exploration. So there's a number of things that are in here. Some of these are also going to be related to formatting. So publishing is a fancy way of saying formatting, right? So this is one that's pre-delivered. Format an ROI calculation aligned with the user's intent in the original question, and then allow the user to interact with the formatting to change columns, change sort order, that kind of thing through natural language. So you'll be able to add in these kinds of things. Or if we think of the types of things that a customer may want to do, you may have things like policies and accounts payable that need to be adhered to. So I've preloaded one in here, a statement, but you'd essentially add your own extensions to payment optimization by having it do things like adhere to policies and providing a policy component to this. You can put in your own description for this or generate one based off of it, as well as, give it a name. ERP family. It's finance. As seen before, you could use some of these for the like the generation capabilities, and then you would have to go into here, edit this agent, add these new worker roles. And I'm not going to bore you with the details, but essentially you'd then add the new AP policy agent into that. And when you're finished doing so, you can then update. Then you'd go through and do testing against this. So I'll go through one of the testing scenarios here. I actually don't have any policies loaded into the repository for the AP policy agent, so it's not going to take into account at the moment. But you can see the testing flow here and how this would essentially work. As I ask a question of it, it's going to break down this high-level request that I've made around show me the ROI of moving a payment. It's going to give me the final output of it, tell me what agents it's incorporated, just like you saw in the previous ones. And as in the previous ones as well, it'll show you, like in the case if I had any of those loaded in, I do have policies loaded into the RAG repository. It tells you what paragraphs in the terms and conditions document from the payment program provider. In this case, I think it's JPMorgan Chase. What paragraphs in there are applicable to the ROI calculation. So the statement date, what our interest rate will be for any late payments or delayed payments after the statement date, and what the rebate's going to be for any payments that I make against that. You can also see as it breaks this question down, it's asking each of its individual worker agents different components of it. So here it's asking the payment advisor what the payments are. It's asking the payment program advisor what the program details, terms and conditions are, and then passing that to the ROI calculator to calculate a final ROI. So you can see in pretty simple terms how that is going to be leveraged. The other thing that partners and customers will have to do in order to leverage these agents is keep the terms and conditions repositories up to date. So in cases where you're using connected banking through Oracle, these will be loaded automatically. But if you're leveraging a program that doesn't have connected banking, one of the common facilities that you'll need to do to keep the agents up to date is go in and basically attach new terms and conditions documents so that the latest terms and conditions from the banks, trading partners, from your tax providers, whatever it might be, are up to date in the system. So this is an ongoing maintenance task in order to make sure that the agents are using the latest and greatest information from all of your trading partners. And that applies also to your own policies. If you're using the expense policy agent, for instance, this is where you would keep those policies up to date as well. So that's just a quick flyby of how you'd potentially augment some of the ERP agents that already exist, as well as the sort of maintenance that would need to occur in order to keep the agents operating appropriately on an ongoing basis. So obviously a large number of agents that you could, as you've seen in previous ones, blend together even across the families. But with that, Prasanna, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Justin. That was a fantastic demo on ERP. This wraps up our section on the pillar-specific demos. So far, we covered HCM, supply chain, CX, and ERP. We saw so many built-in features in the Agent Studio that can truly help our customers accelerate their AI adoption. So far, I'm looking at the Q&A window. We had just about 900 questions. So thank you, guys. Thank you for all this interaction. We are in the final stage. We have just under 30 minutes left. So maybe we keep going. Maybe we avoid the break right now. So the next on the list we have is few more questions. It's the time for the quiz. In the final segment, what we have is we're going to do a few questions. Then Aarti is going to come by and answer some of the questions.